Hey y'all, I'm your host, Aaron Smith of the Offshore Marine Service Association. Each Friday, I'll bring you the Offshore Briefing, a quick rundown of the week's notable developments, updates, and news you need to know in the offshore space. Whether you're on deck or at your desk, we're glad you're here. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Offshore Briefing, part of Maritime in America. Hope everyone's doing all right. As always,
And surviving the last week of school for some who have children, because I am barely.
That's debatable. As I was going to say, as always, I am your host, Aaron Smith. And as always, I have with me my co-hosts, Angel Johnson and Ashley Smith. How are y'all doing?
Glorious. Doing well on this depressingly rainy day.
It's looking better. All right. So I want to talk some more about, Jones Act Waiver that we have seen. And just, I really want to, usually I don't think, we usually have a stance that we look more at the impacts and look at the people, not so much on the stats of what's going on, because this is more of a mariner focused podcast, more of a people focused podcast. That's hard to say, rather than the data. But I do think it's important to look at the data from this waiver, and the data is absolutely horrible. It proves once again that regardless of what European funded think tanks may say, the waiver is doing nothing to help consumers, but is doing everything to harm the U.S. maritime industry and harm job creation. Just looking at it, so as of Monday, there had been 49 domestic voyages. That's gone up some this week. I think the latest figure I saw was 58 completed movements, because here you have to report to MARAD 48 hours after the voyage is completed, but then MARAD can publish the data up to 10 days later. So we're all dealing with some outdated information here. But if you look at the figure of looking at the first 49 completed voyages, that means that 9.29 million barrels of liquid commodities have been transported under the waiver. Now that sounds like a lot, almost 10 million barrels of petroleum and petroleum products. But what you're looking at is 0.79% of total U.S. petroleum products. That's about 11 hours of national usage. So what has happened is we have completely halted maritime investment. That's what's happening. There are not people that are making U.S. maritime investment right now. There have now been two companies that have publicly reported that they are shelving major investments in U.S. shipyards because of this waiver. And that's just the two that have come out so far. I think we're going to see more. We've had a domestic operator who lost a voyage, had a contract for a movement in June, lost that contract, went back to the charter and said, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I will charge you the exact same price as that Filipino crewed foreign vessel that's paying their mariners less than minimum wage. But you know what? I will eat the loss and I'll move on a U.S. bottom. And you know what the charter did? Charter still went with the foreign flag ship, because that's what they're trying to do. They want to undermine this industry. They want to undermine the U.S. maritime industry so that it goes away. And then when they have the monopoly, when China and Chinese controlled ships have the monopoly, then they can jack up the price. That's what's going to happen here. And in the interim, 650,000 Americans lose their jobs. So, and all of that for for what did I say? 11 hours of fuel usage. Um, so in just some other digging into these top line numbers, it's just
That's
con-
crazy statistics or
yeah.
numbers.
So looking at the largest recipient of the movements has been California, and so what apparently we're doing is, California has not invested and has prevented the investment in refineries, has prevented the construction of pipelines. So we're just going to, apparently all of us in the maritime industry have to pay the cost for California's bad decisions. That's what's happening here. I don't know why the White House feels the need to bail out Gavin Newsom and correct Gavin Newsom's problems that he's created. Why are we doing that? That doesn't make any sense. And even after we have just absolutely sacrificed, and look, these aren't Californians that are losing their jobs, are they? The people, where's the largest state for maritime jobs in the country? Louisiana. Second, Texas. Third, Florida. We are talking about red state voters who are losing their jobs so that this red state White House can bail out blue state California. Not exactly sure how that works or why that works. It sounds like a dumb, dumb, dumb trade. But the cost of that, we're not even getting those blue state voters are not getting a benefit. We got what I see so far is that apparently 1 million barrels of oil have gone to California. That's about 0.3% of their consumption, 0.3% of their consumption. And again, that's the high water mark. And look, it's what we're seeing is that it's really not moving the the there's no increased capacity. Um, Domestic shipping of coastwise shipment of petroleum products was completely flat for the month of March. And April data will come out soon. It's going to be flat for April as well. So what you have here is we are costing Americans their jobs and preventing investment in U.S. shipyards for no benefit. It just doesn't make any sense.
That was one of your biggest soapboxes and foil hats drawing the lines, but it does make sense. I mean, but it does all kind of go together. Again, when it comes to California, it's like they don't want to do anything. They want to act all respect the earth, respect everything, but they want our stuff anyway.
Yeah. There's a great line from one of my favorite shows of all time, and it talks about that one of the main characters was raised by a bunch of beatnik hippies, and they have said, "We've tried nothing, and we're all out of ideas."
Exactly.
That's the tenement behind this waiver here is we've
Yeah.
tried nothing and we're all out of
Well, I think
ideas.
it goes to the extremes that I always say are terrible. You shouldn't have extreme ideas on anything. Like, you know, we should all be middle of the road, but have our own viewpoints. And their extreme, conserve everything is causing them the need to kind of bounce to the other side and go around ways to get what they need.
Hey, I'm extreme on Jones Act and I'm
You
perfectly
are.
fine to
I
be
am
extreme on
extreme on
Jones Act.
Jones Act only because it makes sense, right? And we do
Yep.
have listeners and we do have people that are listening and sometimes question when I ask questions, but I genuinely ask questions because I like to go in deep dives. Like, I don't know things. I want to know things. Like, help me make sense. I'm shockingly very open minded when it comes to, except for you, Aaron, other people's opinions and viewpoints because I genuinely want to know. So we've been talking about energy and, to kind of piggyback on yours, I went down a rabbit hole on the National Energy Dominance Council and what they do and who they're, and then I got linked to the Department of the Interior website and then started going through all that kind of stuff. And then I was like looking at pictures of the National Energy Dominance Council, and a lot of the pictures for the National Energy Dominance Council specifically a lot of the social media, which what we all do now, right? Like that's how
Yeah.
we live and exist, are touting a lot of foreign operations, investments, or what's the word I'm looking for? Or connections. And I that doesn't make sense to me.
No. Look, you
Like make
have
that make
it,
sense.
and I think we talked about it. We talked about it last time. If not, I'm sorry, we can go back. I mean, the the amount of oil exports that have happened has really exploded. Um, that's not good for American consumers. I mean, that is making tons of profits, and Marathon, uh, Exxon, and someone else we talked about last week, I believe, have reported record profits, mostly on saving costs because they've ditched Americans for foreign labor, and because they are selling oil abroad at a premium. And that's a lot of what the National Energy Dominance Council has done. And so how is that helping consumers?
Yeah.
No one has told me how, hey, we are going to make sure that big business makes shitloads of profits abroad, how that helps Americans. Where is the American first nature of that?
How yeah, I mean, that opens up a whole nother make it make sense.
Yeah, but I've seen the same pictures. Yeah, it seems like I didn't know you could get a job in the White House and just travel 80% of the time and just
Now
take pictures of
now
yourself
travel, I do get why you have to do international travel,
working for a national office.
but that's what I don't that's what confuses me, is touting not national not national partnerships, not national, yeah, yeah.
And look, I'd love,
That'll be another I'm still going through doing
yeah,
my, deep
I'd
dive on
love
things.
to hear, what the National Energy Dominance Council office has to say. I would love to hear
I
because
know we invited them, we tried to get
yeah,
them to come to our conference a few times, didn't we?
yes, we did.
Okay.
I would love to hear what they would have to say because as we reported, as the stats show, there has not been an increase in the amount of petroleum products that is being transported domestically. So if there's not an increase, that means we're just moving it from U.S. tonnage to foreign tonnage. That means U.S. mariners are losing their jobs. So how can you, as a dominant national dominance office, look Americans in the eye and say, you lost your job, so a foreigner making $3.10 an hour can go to work?
Which he should again, this is where you and I might differ, but I always look at it as in, that's also not fair to that foreigner, and it's not safe for that foreigner.
Oh, I no,
Though
I
those
totally
countries
agree.
no, I know you agree, but I always like, those countries should also rally around and be like, "No, we're not taking your shit pay, and we need to pull our like, we need to pull ourselves out of this." That's a whole 'nother story.
Yeah. No, I think you're
Yeah.
right. Well, especially when you look at, so many, I think about half of half of the mariners who have come in, which is on par for international averages. About half of the mariners that have come in under this waiver have been Filipino. And let me look up, under the waiver, the ownership of the vessels has been Greek, German, um, Greek and German from the and Marshall Islands, from European. Um, but you know what's interesting about that is that the the EU tried to kick out Filipino mariners from all EU based shipping because the Philippines have not kept track with STCW which means that Filipino mariners are not as well trained as US mariners. So we have European companies who are utilizing mariners here that they don't want to utilize at home. What does that say?
Yeah.
Oh, and just while we're talking about the ownership of the vessels that have utilized the waiver,
Mhm.
the largest ownership has been Singaporean, second largest ownership American.
Oh, that's frightening.
Yep. Yeah.
We should
So
take a work trip to, Singapore.
it's not.
Whenever we talk about the Philippines, I always this is so random, but I think about a certain person we know whose whose father was in the Philippines with his that parents, so I guess the great grandparents, during World War II, and were prisoners of war there, and they had to they're American, but they were over there for work, and the grandfather, who was a child at the time, had to live there, and
Yeah.
he had scurvy and all that, and when you see him now, his bones are. That's what I think of the Philippines. Is that crazy?
That's the
Sorry, my ADD squirrel brain.
that's some mighty big jumps there.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up just a small fact. When we're talking about because when Ashley mentioned the Filipino workers, it's not fair to them for earning the lower wage. I do want to point out the cost of living is extremely different from living in the Philippines to living in America.
Mhm.
So I think that raises a big concern when people are just worried about paying the foreigners lower wage. I mean, it's a reason the Americans are paid more.
Well, I've seen some people this week, some DC think tanks, two of them, have made comments, and it haven't been overt. And I was actually having a conversation with some people last night about this, and because I've seen some comments from these DC think tanks of people that are looked to be criticizing the wages that are paid to American mariners. And they do so in ways that are, there's maybe the veneer of plausible deniability, but I don't even want to say plausible deniability because, look, we all know what emojis mean. Um, you
I
know,
apparently I don't, because I use emojis for literally everything, and I use the wrong emojis all the time.
well, maybe that's what these people doing, but the big eye emojis means look at this. You shouldn't like this.
Or that means to me "Oh my god."
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. You are calling attention to something.
Yeah.
Not usually like in a, "Hey, this is awesome. Look at this."
But here's
That's
the thing.
never yeah. It's like if you're saying you're using the eyes emojis to be like, "Oh my gosh, this is great," then apparently you also use the eggplant emoji to talk about, nightshade vegetables.
Which it is a nightshade vegetable, and I'm not as having rheumatoid arthritis, you're not supposed to eat nightshade vegetables. But the reason why
Oh,
US workers make more money is because they have more qualifications, for the most part. That's not a blanket statement, but it's for the most part. Like, when you go to law school, right? I
I
mean,
don't
as
even care
a
about that. I'm not going to apologize for American mariners making good wages. Full
I
stop right
agree,
there.
but full stop, you also but agreed, but you also need to educate people that when you're just, when you're working for a law firm, and you're like a clerk or something, like you don't have a law degree, but you're working to get one, you make X amount of dollars. But when you get that law degree and you're actually practicing, your salary bumps up. Why? Because you actually have that law degree. Same, like you go get your MBA, you have that behind your name, that elevates you. That's what our workers do. So why wouldn't they be able the salary make, why can't that meet? In the business world, it's all a business. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, and look, these people are now working domestically. Minimum wage should apply. You know, uh,
Agreed.
patch rules should apply. You are working domestically in the country. So, hey, go get them, Tiger. Coast Guard, get out there, go inspect, go see what's going on, and, check some wage levels. I know some people that are checking wage levels. Let's go get some actual enforcement out there.
Yeah. Okay, I think we went on this tangent too long, but good tangent.
Well, good. Well, everyone, keep up to date with us. Follow us on socials. Follow this podcast, and we'll keep bringing some good information. And we have some great. We're really going to be putting to light a lot of the information about these waivers. So keep following along. I think you're going to see some good information.
Awesome.
All right. Well, everyone, have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Everyone, take care over Memorial Day.
Yeah,
Hope you
have a
get
great
to do something fun.
memorial.
Happy Friday.
That wraps up another episode of Maritime in America. We're proud to highlight the voices and stories that keep the American offshore industry strong. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us, and remember, the course ahead is shaped by those who step up and steer. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your crew. Tune in every Friday for your Offshore Briefing, and don't miss our next full episode, dropping soon with the very special guest's Mariner's Perspective. Catch you next time.